Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted, as always, to be joined by Paul Kelly. This is a final thoughts and predictions show ahead of the big undercards tomorrow night. We're not really going to touch on the main event in this video between Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou, just because it's such a obviously expected to be such a one-sided main event. I think doing kind of predictions is a little bit pointless. However, we have done content on the fight that is available on YouTube now. If you'd like to listen to it or watch it, please do go on our YouTube channel and you will find it in our recent videos. Paul, as I said, not really going to touch on the main event here, but I think this is a contender for the best undercard of the year. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good undercard. In terms of name value and stuff on it, obviously you've got that British heavyweight fight, undefeated against undefeated. I'm sure we'll get into. Obviously, a few former world champion. Obviously, Joseph Parker's fighting on the card as well. The that Russian fighter who's undefeated and looks like a knockout artist as well. And then obviously you've got the Bakole Takam fight. Takam, a former world title challenger, of course, and Bakole, fringe top 10 heavyweight. Some would maybe have him as. So yeah, some really good names on the card, mate. And yeah, it is. It's without, it's probably one that if you look at it, boxing fans are actually probably more excited for the undercard than the main event.
Yeah, look, I'm sure you get some fans who watch the undercard and then go to bed, basically. Gonna look at two fights here, Paul. First one, as you mentioned, undefeated versus undefeated in Fabio Wardley versus David Adeleye. I'm really looking forward to this. I think it could be one of the most eagerly anticipated fights between two British fighters this year, in my opinion. Everyone loves a domestic grudge match. It really gets kind of people talking. Obviously, we saw the beef at the press conference a couple of months ago. And yeah, I think it's a really intriguing one. Interested to get your final predictions here. We'll just quickly skim through the betting odds. Fabio Wardley is 1-3 to win this fight, so he is a fairly clear favourite. 4-5 to win by stoppage, 7-2 to win by decision. Whereas David Adeleye is 9-4 to win the fight, 7-2 to win by stoppage, and 7-1 to win by decision. So bookies don't think Adelaide's gonna win this fight over the distance. It is scheduled for 12 rounds as well, just so everyone knows that. Paul, what are your final thoughts and your final prediction for Fabio Wardley versus David Adeleye?
Yeah, mate, it's a really interesting one for me. I think that obviously you look at both men's resumes, they're both big punchers. Um, and you'd think then that would kind of indicate that whatever way it goes, one man's going to secure a knockout here because they are both big punchers. But the more I've thought about it, and I don't know why, the more I've thought about it, the more I've thought that, you know what, they could maybe cancel each other out, and I could maybe see this going later than some people are predicting it. So I'm gonna go with Fabio Wardley, although he's the one that has less amateur experience and stuff. I think he's looked better in the pro ranks personally. I think it could be fireworks for a few rounds, but I don't see either man stopping each other early on. And then after like 3, 4, 5 rounds, maybe I could just see them happy. Well, not happy, but like I could see the fight kind of dying down a little and just kind of progressing and going the full way. So I'm going to actually go with Wardley to win on points, which was what, 4 or 5 to 1, something like that. So yeah, plenty of value there if you think these two might cancel each other out and it could go the full 36 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, yeah. I think Wardley to win by unanimous decision, I'm seeing is 9-2. It's pretty good odds there. And yeah, interesting, mate. I agree with you that I think Wardley will win. I think he has been up against, look, he's not faced any world beaters, but he's fought the likes of Nathan Gorman, Nick Webb, Eric Molina, decent heavyweight names. Whereas David Adeleye, a lot of people thought he lost to Sokolowski, and he's not many people would recognize any of the other names on his record, if we're being honest. Expecting Wardley, yeah, I'm going to disagree with you, and I expect Wardley to win by stoppage. Wardley 16-0 with 15 KOs. I do think this will be very interesting in the first kind of 3 or 4 rounds, but I'm going for Wardley to win by stoppage. Rounds 5 to 6 is my kind of final prediction. I just think does punch very hard, and I just think sooner or later that'll get through to get through to Adeleye. And if you look at Wardley's record, not many of his fights kind of get to the second half of the fight. He seems to get guys out of there in the first half, which is pretty impressive, really. We will move on to the other fight we're going to talk about. Martin Bakole against Carlos Takam. Two impressive heavyweights, arguably two top 15 heavyweights. Bakole going into this fight as the favourite. Carlos Takam obviously had that fantastic win over Tony Yoka beginning of this year. And yeah, I think it's still an intriguing fight. Carlos Takam now 42 years old. So interested to get your final thoughts and predictions here as well, Paul. Just skim through the betting odds again. Bakole is 1-6 to win, 4-5 to win by stoppage, 13-8 to win by decision. Carlos Takam is 5-1 to win, 8-1 to win by stoppage, and 10-1 to win by points. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, mate, I think I make Bakole a favourite. I think most people would. But 1-6 is maybe a little too wide given how Takam did perform against Yuka. Obviously, they both have a win over Tony Yuka on their resumes here. Both were expected to probably lose the fight as well. For me, again, I know you outlined the odds there, and it was a stoppage. Is win for Bakole is the most likely according to the bookies, but I can see this one going 10 rounds or whatever it is again. I could see Bakole winning on points because if I look at Bakole's record, yes, he has a good few knockouts, but the two fights that kind of stand out as, step ups, arguably, were the Yuka fight and the Kuzmin fight, and they both went the distance. So I think that Bakole could potentially win this on points again. Takam, obviously, he's really tough as well. Should have gone the distance with Joshua probably a few years ago. Took a good few rounds. Obviously, bar the Chisora knockout, that was a humdinger for as long as it lasted. It's taken, any defeat he has had by knockout, it's been laid on, and he's tough nut to crack. So yeah, I think this one's going to be Bakole points, and I would say odds of 7-4 for that. So yeah, decent value.
Yeah, I can disagree, but I'm not going to. I actually think you make a very good case for Bakole to win this fight on points. Takam, a very tough man. I'm not as sold on Bakole as other people are. Don't want to offend anyone who possibly trains Bakole out there. Hopefully he doesn't see this video. But yeah, I think Bakole, look, could he stop Carlos Takam? Yes. Do I expect him to maybe get a knockdown? Yes. But this is the final prediction show, and I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go Bakole on points there, which is not what the bookies are expecting to happen. Bookies are expecting a stoppage. Takam, on one hand, he is 42. On the other hand, if you look at who he's been stopped against and the style in which he's been stopped against, the Joshua fight didn't have to be stopped then. That fight could have gone on. The Joe Joyce fight he had a couple of years ago, that fight really could have gone on. It was a bit of a controversial stoppage for those that remember. And the other guys he's been stopped against are pretty decent punches in the heavyweight division. So yeah, I can't. Yeah, look, I think it's an intriguing fight. I also agree with you. I think odds of 1-6 just for Carlos Takam to win. Just for Martin Bakole to win are a bit much. But we'll see. Should be another good heavyweight fight. We'll leave it there, Paul. I think those are the two best picks of the undercard that we've covered. But it's been good to get some final thoughts and predictions of you on what will be an interesting night tomorrow night or tonight, depending on when you're watching this video. Paul, thank you very much for joining me. Appreciate your time as always, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Cheers, mate. Enjoyed that. All the best.